Good morning. I would like to call the 18 December Board of Directors meeting to order. I would like to extend season's greetings to all of you, and thank you for being with us. And if you would stand and join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm Matt Cambick. I'm the president of our corporation, and I'll allow the rest of the head table to introduce themselves.
I'm Darren Shaw, your new Chief Operating Officer.
Dan Lendiger, Vice President.
Sean Kreiderman, Secretary.
Mark Eckert, Treasurer. Larry Santora, the Assistant Treasurer.
Denise Lexell, Director.
Kim McAloney, Recording Secretary for Charlie.
Thank you. The first order of business today is to approve the minutes from the 20 November Board of Directors meeting. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any conversation, questions from the board? Any from our residents? I'm sorry, our members. I'm getting educated. Seeing none, all in favor of approving the 20 November minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous, Kim. Our next order of business is our strategic plan update. Next slide. Next slide, please, Rick. Here's our mission statement. Next slide. Our vision statement. Next slide. And our values. And I pointed out this morning we had a breakfast with all the committee chairs and the board members, and we had a chance to reflect on this past year. And one of the things that I would like to congratulate the community on is apparently the values struck home. In the incidents that we've experienced in the past with resident, employee, and resident altercation down this year. And so for that I'm grateful. And if our value statements have meant that much to the community, I'm glad we did them. Next slide. The stoplight chart definitions. Next slide, Rick. So we had three primary objectives. This is goal 2 is one of the three. And we wanted to get through this year and come out the other side of this year with a plan for our facilities and what we were going to do with them going forward. Next slide. Next slide. And so I'll stand up and talk about this for just a second. If you remember back in 2023, it's our last resident survey. In that survey, you were asked to talk to us about what you thought some of our facility needs and requirements were. And that was the beginning of our discussion with the McMahon Group this year. We created a facility master plan task force made up of members of the community. And that task force started in May and completed its work in October. On the 22nd of October, they briefed out 5 months of work to the board. The master plan is not finalized. McMahon Group is working on the report to finalize this. Darren had a conversation with our head architect just this week, and we'll have a phone call later this afternoon to discuss more about wrapping this project up. Developing a campus tour program for residents so they could see behind the curtain. We've had a lot of thoughts and ideas about this. Basically, we got the task force members through all of our facilities, but we haven't yet got this accomplished. What we want to do is let you see behind the curtains, and we're trying to figure out how to use technology to make that happen. And it's always a hope that this time next year we can report to you that we got that done. And maintaining our current facilities at the highest quality while all this other work is ongoing. And this is where I get to brag about Ray Kuhn and Bill McGinn and the work of their teams in maintaining all of our facilities. It doesn't matter which restaurant you walk into, which one of our facilities you walk into, they're well maintained and well kept, and so we're green in that area. And so you can see we didn't get this accomplished. This is still work to be accomplished, and the rest of these we get checks in the box. Next slide. Now I'll introduce Denise Lexell.
Okay, goal number 7 was Green Space Champion. Do you have a next slide? Great. And this is, we will produce well-maintained desert landscapes with our common area maintenance program to produce a beautiful interface and views between homeowners, outstreets, and our golf courses. Next slide. And you can see on these objectives, number 1, to establish a common area maintenance committee. We did that early in the year. Number 2, evaluate execution of the CAM effort. That's ongoing. And number 3, evaluate CAM staffing requirements. That's ongoing. I do want to mention that this year was a learning year. This is really the first year that Michael's had a chance to execute any of the things that we put forth this year. So there were some highs, and we've had some things that we've learned along the way, and we are excited about what the next couple years look like. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. And now it's my privilege to introduce Darren Shaw to provide you his very first Chief Operating Officer's update.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. And halfway through the third week of my employment here, and I'm trying to get engaged as much as I can. So there's a number of things I want to report on, and I'll start with accounting and finance. I know there'll be a finance report later, but the budget was passed in November, and we had our first team meeting to talk about how we implement that budget, and more specifically, how we implement all of the reserve projects that are part of that approved budget. So we'll be working on a comprehensive schedule that will take a look at 2025 and where those projects can be scheduled. On the administration side, the admin office will be closed December 24th and 25th, and again on January 1st. Common area maintenance, they've done some work, some cleanup work behind Desert View Theater here and north of Desert View as well. Fitness center, adjusted hours at the fitness center for Christmas Eve, closed Christmas Day, adjusted hours for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Food and beverage, the rewards program expires on December 31st, 2024. There's still room for the New Year's Eve parties at Mountain View and the Preserve, but they're almost sold out. So if you want to take part in those festivities, make your reservations now. Golf maintenance, we are getting quotes for the replacement of the pump station at the Preserve Golf Course. We have 3 quotes now. We're waiting on 1 more. That's a reserve project scheduled in 2025. And on the golf maintenance and golf ops side, there was a new superintendent hired for the Preserve and a new golf professional hired for the Mountain View course as well. So some new personnel on both of those teams. Operations and facilities maintenance repairs to Mountain View Pool to eliminate some rust spots is being scheduled. We have to close the pool for a few days. There's a tentative schedule that maybe that happens in January, but we'll be informed by our project team when that's actually going to take place, and we'll communicate that to everybody. We're also working on some automatic door opener projects for key restrooms here well, not here, but at Mountain View Bar and Grill and the Preserve. There were some comments made at my introduction to the community a couple weeks ago about accessing those restrooms. So we're seeing what we can do on an immediate basis, but we're also taking a bigger look at a long-term plan. On the patrol side, Keep in mind that violation fines increase on January 1st. And I have a note here. Existing safety corridors will be removed, Clubhouse Drive, Mountain View Boulevard, Desert Bluffs Drive, and Catalina Hills Drive. But fines will remain the same, 100 for up to 15 miles an hour over the speed limit, 200 above that. Speeding violations on all other streets will be raised to those same fine levels. And then fines for failure to obey a stop sign increase from $50 to $200. So be diligent out there on the roads. Speeding's a common thing, and hopefully these measures have a real impact positively on the community. Moving forward, I'd like to report on a few other things. We're getting ready to start the biannual age survey. We have to do that every 2 years. It's a federal requirement in order for us to discriminate and be a community for older persons. So we'll be working on that. We think we can do most of that electronically. I'm working with my assistant to come up with a plan. I'm still getting accustomed and acclimated to your financials, but as a general statement, it looks like the financial projections are going to be much better than they were back in July, and the expected bottom line is somewhere around $150,000 in the blacks this year. So we still have one more month to go. We're almost through that month now, but we don't have the reporting yet. So I'll keep everybody informed. We start with the COO coffee event. The first one is scheduled for January 8th. So if you're interested in chatting with me, I'll bring Ray along with me. And if you're interested in chatting with me, make sure you put that on your calendar. Bear with me just a minute. I'm also working with my team on goals and objectives for 2025. And once I get those goals and objectives established, hopefully by the end of January, I'll be on the board and share them with the community as well. The workers' compensation package insurance expires at the end of this fiscal year, December 31st. We're in the process of renewing that. If you know much about workers' comp, our mod rate was really good at 75. It bumped up to over 100 right now, I think 110 based on a few claims that we had in 2024, the last few months. But that's still a good mod rate. The premiums for that policy look to increase from about $25,000 to about $31,000 a year. I'm still waiting on one more bid from a workers' comp carrier that I used when I was in California. And we'll see if that bid comes in any cheaper. On January 7th, there's a board orientation and organizational meeting. The board will hear from legal counsel. The board will hear from the insurance broker. They'll also hear from me. We'll have lunch, and then we'll reconvene for the organization meeting where officers of the board will be appointed and committee liaisons will be appointed as well. That's on January 7th. And that pretty much concludes my report. As I'm here a little bit longer, my reports will have more substance, but I thought I'd share with you the information that I have today. Thank you.
You've been here a whole 2.5 weeks?
Two and a half, yes.
Yeah, great job, thanks. All right, Brother Bill McGinn. He's going to give us a projects update.
There are no projects to report, thank you. So, kind of, to some point, there are no new projects, major projects going on this month, but we are in the works of doing things. So I would like to start today basically going over what we did over the past 8 months that I've been here. So let me do my introduction, a little nostalgia for you guys that have been with me since the beginning. I am the Director of Facilities Operations, retired Air Force, giver, saint, outstanding father, trophy husband, and all-around good guy. So I would like to, you see the statement up on the screen today, and I'm a huge believer in pictures say 1,000 words, but I'd like to talk a little bit about my teams and what they do. Every morning they get ready, to get the pools ready, get your courts ready so that you have a nice resort type feeling here. My custodial team, they get up, they get going, they're restocking, making sure that your bathrooms are all clean and taking care of some unmentionable areas that need to be cleaned up, and they do an outstanding job. So Joey, if you could roll the video for me. So some of the projects that we took care of here in the past year, that, I mean, there was a lot, and I know I missed a few, but of course the pool project that was going on, huge combination of CAM, contractors, and maintenance, along with my cleaning crew. Tennis courts resurfaced. Pro Shop at the Mountain View, getting ready for the reopening. Pro Shop at the Reserve got new facelift. Unit walls throughout Unit 48. Mountain View Solar Project, which is still being data assessed. We've got fountains that we put in at the Preserve Golf Course. That was a great project that we combined with golf course maintenance and got those out there. Ceiling fans at the Arts and Crafts Center. Cornhole courts that is getting ready to take off and booming. We did multiple AC replacements throughout the whole community, at least as far as the commercial goes, not your houses. Sidewalk repairs throughout the whole community. Numerous water leaks that have popped up. If you guys remember, my first project was the one over at the pickleball court that we did in-house. And, you know, I mean, just about every little project that we had going on throughout the year, you're looking at photos of, there's our bulk order tanks. I mean, the basketball hoops that are going up are up and running over here at Desert View and at the Preserve. A ramp to the tennis courts. You know, I mean, there's your plumbing leak that we had over at the pickleball courts. Just endless things that my team, contractors, combination of departments just take care of for you folks every day. And I can't be more proud of the team. There's Joe. There's my manager getting busy. Just electrical for those. There's your golf guys. You see they're hard at work. Just cleaning, moving, fixing things. Here we are repairing ceilings. New swamp cooler down at the maintenance yard. Fixing the misters all around the buildings. There's Joe in the middle of the morning spraying off bird poop. There's the water leak here at Mountain View at the Mesquite. I mean, just endless cleaning, endless things that we do to make sure that this place is like a resort feel. When you get up in the morning, most of these people are up before you even lift your head off the pillow. I can't thank them enough. Everybody says, great job, Bill, but I go, that's because of these guys. That's what they do. That's what they do all day long. We've got an 18-hour shift that we have to cover, and I'm impressed that it goes off so smoothly, but those of you that are in theater understand that things behind a curtain aren't always that easy. There's your fountains, and there's our complex. So I want to put a big shout out to my team and thank everybody that's a part of it. So along with what we did last year, I got a little bit to talk about what we're going to be going. So if Joey or Nick, if you could roll the slideshow for me, it'd be great. Am I taking too long, man? He's not listening. All right, so as always, my 3 goals: financial stewardship, effective communication, and exceptional member experience. I think I covered the exceptional member experience with my team, so a little look to the future. Next slide, please. As Darren had mentioned, we've got quite an extensive reserve list to take care of this year, and we're already working hard at getting contract bids, finding ways to do it in-house, looking to see what other teams can help us out with. We've got, of course, the Clear Comfort system that's going in, and those dates will be from the 27th through the 30th. There is no downtime to the pools. They're just and hopefully we'll start seeing some good numbers, along with our control systems for our chemicals. Possible upgrades to the Mountain View Bar and Grill. This is one of the things that we're doing for a project management team. We have 2 air conditioning units, which was a program that started 5 years ago, upgrading all of our ACs throughout our commercial buildings. We are getting a new lap pool cover and power system here over at the Mountain View pool. Those of you that see it, it's pretty well torn up by rats. We also have the preserve is going to be getting a facelift this year to include exterior paint, pool deck, plaster, some more landscape throughout that whole pool area, and I think it's going to be an outstanding look by the time we're done. Next slide, please. Again, continued, we've got so many things that are going on, and one of my strategic goals is to give you guys the information. I communicate as much as I can, so we've got tennis courts getting resurfaced, new landscape lighting, more sidewalk repairs. I'll be painting units 14, 15, and 17 walls this year. Not me personally, I'm hiring somebody. Spin cycle room will finally get the floor completed. That's happening in January, so be ready for that. Pickleball old courts, we're going to give them some love this year. See if we can't get new fencing. We're looking at things, we're talking it over. Shower stall repairs at the preserve. Some of you that use the preserve gym will appreciate that. Possible upgrades to the restaurant ballrooms, hopefully to include paint, door openers, etc. And pretty much anything else that's thrown my way this year, I'll be the guy to come and talk to, yell at, cry with, do whatever you want to do, but I'm here for you guys. Next slide, please. So I just want to make it a great new year and wish you all the happiest of holidays.
It's always wonderful to have an all-round good guy on your team.
You know it is.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Ford.
Our next speaker will be Terry Dempsey, who will be providing our November financial update.
Good morning. I am Terry Dempsey, Director of Finance, and I'm the one that throws the water on Bill's dreams and wishes. So, okay, our financial update for November. Let's see. Go ahead, next slide, please. So our cash for November, overall, these are getting harder to read, sorry. $10,946,000. Operating cash was $3,006,000. Checking for operating was $447,000. Savings, we had $1.1 million in there, and investments were $2 million. Overall, it's less than October, which was about 11% less. Reserve cash is $5.6 million. In checking, we had $79,000. Savings was $61,000. In investments, $5.5 million. And it's better than October by about 0.7%. CIF cash, $1.6 million. We had checking of $326,000, savings of $1.3, and this is better than October by 2.6%. Okay, next slide, please. This is our projection versus what our reforecast was for July. The center, the green column, is projection for 2024. It's basic projection, is nothing fancy. We just basically took our year-to-date information and plus what we had reforecasted. So in this, the HOA dues are coming in as expected at $7.7 million. Our other revenue is projected to be $29,000 higher than what the July reforecast was due to late payments on dues, and then interest income is being higher than reforecasted. Amenity revenue is falling short of reforecast by about $33,000, with F&B being short of reforecast by $44,000, and fitness being better than reforecast by $17,000. Although F&B revenue is lower than reforecasted, overall F&B is doing much better than 2023, as we will see in the coming slides. Total operating revenue is better than reforecast by $21,000. Okay, next slide is the expenses. Total operating expenses are $757,000, better than what we had reforecasted. All departments' expenses are better than reforecasted, showing control over our spending. Golf, G&A, common area are the most under what we had reforecasted for expenses. November shows a net income of $143,000, which is better than what was reforecasted by $779,000. Okay. Next slide. So these are November actuals. Operating fund revenue is $675,000 and is 0.5% better than what it was in November of '23, as expected. Amenities net are a subsidy of $955, which is 99% better than what it was in November of 2023, so much better. Year-to-date, amenities has a subsidy of $1.4 million, and operating expenses are 17.7% higher than what they were in November of '23. And net income for November '24 is a positive $145,000 and is 50% better than November of '23. Okay, next slide. All right, next slide is food and beverage and how they did for November. So food and beverage combined had a subsidy of $26,000, which is 63% better than what it was in November of '23, so much better. Revenue at Mountain View was 24% better than November of '23. Those percentages are incorrect up there, so I apologize for that. I didn't have a chance to change that when I found it. But revenue at Mountain View was 24% better than November of '23. The preserve revenue is 9% better than November, and combined restaurant revenue is 18% better than what it was in November of '23. So they're doing a good job up there, bringing people in and keeping people coming. Mountain View expenses were 0.4% higher than what they were in November of '23, and the preserve expenses are 5.5% higher than November of 2023. And F&B, although it's not up here, F&B year-to-date has a combined subsidy of $397,000 through November. Through November '23, it added subsidy of $586,000, so 32% better for F&B. So. Next slide. This slide kind of shows what the revenue trajectory is. So we have a combined F&B revenue continues to get stronger. Mountain View Bar and Grill projected revenue, $2.4 million, which is 21% over the 2023, and Preserve projected revenue is $1.3 million for the end of the year, and it's about 8.2% over 2023. Okay, our next slide is our cost of goods sold at each of the locations. So restaurant cost of goods sold is 34.6% at Mountain View, which is pretty average of how they run, and very low at Preserve at 36.1%. And it's no doubt it has to do with the Thanksgiving dinners that they serve there. It's a little bit of a cheaper meal. So, next slide. All right, getting into golf. Our combined golf net income of $34,000, which is 193% better than what it was in November of '23. Mountain View Golf was 35% better than November of '23, and Preserve Golf was down 5.7% from November of '23. Our combined golf revenue was 13% better than last year. Combined golf expenses are 11.7% better than November of '23, and Mountain View was higher than November by 31%, and Preserve was better by 42%. So they're doing better than 2023. Combined subsidy for November is $29,000 compared to November of '23 was $122,000, which is 76% better. Okay. Golf subsidy year-to-date is $973,000 through November, and golf subsidy in 2023 was $896,000, so it's an increase in the subsidy of 8.5%, and as we know, that it's a lot to do with Mountain View not opening on time. So, next slide. This is our dues allocation. Currently, we've collected $3,208 per rooftop. And clockwise on our pie chart, it's restaurants used $124 of that, reserves $969 of that, patrol $92, common area $398, facilities and bill $530, G&A, $761, and G&A includes our front office staff, IT, marketing, accounting, and HR. And then fitness is $19, theater, lifestyle, $12, and golf is $303. And next slide. So all of this information and more detail is can be found at MyHOA2 on the website at MyHOA2, governance policies, financial reports, monthly financials. And thank you very much. Enjoy your holidays and have a good day.
Thank you, Terry. Our next order of business is a presentation on the Common Area Maintenance Policy. Eileen Depka is the chairperson of our Common Area Maintenance Committee. I invite you to the stage. I just want to know how you got past the strong arm of Charlie Shawless, the only person that didn't have to use her PowerPoint format. You're going to have to teach me then.
I don't know, I just make them and give them to her, and she says, okay. I don't think I have any special clout for sure. Good morning, everyone. Yes, it is morning. I'm here to provide some information about the tweaks and additions to the CAM policy draft. First, I'd like to give you a little bit of background information. The CAM committee worked on updating the policy from our birth in February, really until last month. The time frame was significant due to the need to research and discuss the steps found to be essential for our community. The policy draft includes actions that will support our natural vegetation and wildlife through the care of the common areas. In short, the policy continues to define responses to common area needs, including things like the elimination or control of the growth of the number of invasive species that we have. It creates a research-based approach to our common area care and regeneration. It supports the growth and increasing numbers of natural vegetation and natural desert species. It highlights the care needed for swales, culverts, and other areas where drainage and flooding could be a problem. The draft continues to promote the creation of a multiple-year plan to implement levels of care while being conscious of the cost associated with that care. Next slide, please. I only have 350 slides, so we should be fine. No, 9 more to go. So the policy draft, I'm going to begin with the end in mind here. The policy is intended to, a board member came and said, let's talk about the communication lines. How does that work into the policy? So with that request, communication was clarified in connection with the work of the CAM director and the staff, as well as the committee. I have a graphic to show you next, which will illustrate the lines of communication with the CAM, not the CAM committee, well, yes, the CAM committee, but also the maintenance, the crew. So next slide, please. This graphic highlights communication pathways and shares that the COO or his designee provides direction to the CAM director, who carries out the responsibilities through the CAM team. This communication, then any communication from the board would go through the COO and then to the CAM maintenance team. The CAM director and the CAM committee continue to work together to fulfill the direction given to them by both the COO and the board to meet common area needs and research best practices. Next slide, please. So, I think it's important to know that we still have the same 6 levels of care. There are 6 levels. We talk a lot about levels 4 and 5, but 1, 2, and 3 take care of our buildings, take care of the cleanliness of the roadways to walls, the parking lots, and many other things. And those are levels mostly 1, 2, and 3. The draft continues to identify these 6 levels, and they're clearly defined within the policy again. The levels are indicated also on the HOA2 map, which is currently being updated to accurately define the areas within the community. In order to implement the policy, the creation of a 5-year, even a 10-year plan is recommended so that this essential work can be scheduled and implemented in a realistic manner, being conscious of the financial considerations and balanced with our community needs. Next slide, please. So we talk about the levels of care. What does that look like within each of the sections? Levels of care means what should be done in those levels by the common area maintenance crew. So levels 1 through 3 have been tweaked for consistency in wording. Level 6 remains the same, with implementation set likely near the end of a 5-year plan. Levels 4 and 5 continue to be areas that are crucial to care for. 2 clarification points have been made for both levels 4 and 5. One clarification is that a level will not be maintained if it's deemed unsafe. So if the slope is too steep or there's some kind of danger to the crew, it would not be maintained. The second part is that trimming in some areas would be curtailed depending on the possibility of erosion. So those 2 pieces have been added to the draft in order to clarify what can and cannot be done in levels 4 and 5. Other level 5 areas continue to be cared for to eliminate and control the increasing population of invasive weeds, the spread of disease, and the elimination of infestation. As this work continues, disease that impacts our trees and cactus will be controlled, invasives will not continue to choke out our natural vegetation, and our wildlife will not be impacted because of their natural food sources will be regenerated. One of the problems with our invasives is that we now have so many that it chokes out the food that our wildlife is expecting to have. It no longer is natural to them. The good news is that the work that's completed, when the work is completed the first time through, especially in level 5, the following years it will be minimal and regeneration will be a reality. For example, when a tree has been trimmed one time in 20 years, next year it's not going to be as difficult to trim. There's less work involved. Next slide, please. So there are actually 4 appendices. The first I talked about with the very first slide. There are 3 others, the first being the level of care. 1 through 3 include research-based practices. The information within the policy took time, like I said earlier, because of the research involved, to make sure that we were saying and doing the right things. We wanted to make sure that our plan was solid and that it reflected what the experts are saying for areas like ours. So next slide, please. Appendix 1 really talks about all of the levels of care. Wording has changed to improve clarity and consistency. Expectations in the levels were clarified like those already mentioned in 4 and 5, like not going in and doing areas that are dangerous. Regenerating areas that become barren due to the elimination of invasive, dead, and diseased or infested trees and cacti that will be regenerated as possible when those areas become apparent after weeds are removed. The CAM director continues to have discretion to identify work that can and can't be done in areas where safety is a concern. So that continues to be in the new policy draft. Next slide, please. Continuing with level 1. In some cases, timeframes within the current policy were unrealistic. For example, when storm damage occurs, the timeframe didn't allow for time to get equipment or contractors needed to make repairs. The repairs that were needed. In emergency situations, time frame stayed the same due to the essential nature of some kind of repair. For example, if a stop sign were down, it needs to be repaired as soon as humanly possible, putting it back up again. But other repairs were made so that they could be realistic within a time frame depending on the need of that repair. Wording was changed to support consistency. For example, when something was to be accomplished in a specific period of time, it sometimes referred to a day or a work day or hours or some other forms of time. So what we tried to do then is make all of the time consistent. So did 24 hours mean 24 hours or did it mean 24 work hours? Was a weekday, was the 24 hours within a weekday, or was it within a week? So those clarifications were made in order to make the policy more consistent. The policy was also updated to request that the community help if something hazardous situations occur, that anyone in the community would talk to the CAM director or the patrol to point out those dangerous situations so that they can be cared for as soon as possible. Next slide, please. So Appendix 2 is new to the policy. One of the board goals that we were given was to create a forestry strategy. That was worked on to look at, especially specific to trees. How do we care for trees the best that we can within our community? This work was done with the appendix, and the appendix includes practices like thinning, trimming, and planting trees in the common area. So that's pretty much it for Appendix 2. Next slide, please. Appendix 3 looks at invasive vegetation. We got, I think, a lot of information as the common area crew was working through the community this year. And many residents said, you know, what are we going to do with those invasives? How are we going to make sure that they stay gone? How do we get rid of them? And this appendix addresses that situation and more. It highlights research-based methods to be used in levels 4 and 5 to gain control of the common areas, including protocols to be in place to prevent further spread of invasives. Just a few years ago, we were only concerned about one, bufflegrass. It was our main concern. Now we have 7 that are growing in our community very quickly and choking out the plants that we want to keep. It's essential that we treat them. So, spraying areas so invasives don't return is also outlined in the appendix, providing detailed information, which varies depending on the type of invasive that it is. The research the committee has completed with support of the CAM director shows us that it's essential that these areas in level 4 and level 5 be cared for as quickly as possible. When we recently met with 2 of the Pinal County fire marshals, they supported the work being done in levels 4 and 5, stating that the measures being implemented in both are important for wildfire and erosion control. As areas are worked on initially, in some areas natural vegetation will be sparse because we're taking out the invasives. And natural vegetation will spread, wildflowers will increase, trees and cacti will be planted where recommended if there are areas that are open and barren. The invasive population will decrease through eradication and spraying, while barren areas are repopulated with healthy vegetation, native vegetation. So all in all, this really sums up the clarifications and additions to the policy draft. I really want to thank the CAM committee and the CAM director for the countless hours they spent in research, discussion, and editing to present what we hope you find to be a quality common area maintenance policy draft. And before asking that the policy go out for community review, I'm wondering if there are any questions from the board.
There'll be some in a second.
Okay, because we're done with sharing right now.
You done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, then Denise is going to take over. Just stay there.
You want me to stay here? Okay.
Rick, turn Denise on.
Next slide, okay. The HOA2 Board of Directors moves to send the draft Common Area Maintenance Policy out for community review for 21 days, starting today, December 18th, 2024.
I have a motion to send the draft common area policy out to our community for review for the next 21 days. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second. Any discussion with the board?
I just have one. Is this on? Is now. There are still things to be done in this policy that haven't been completed yet. And I just wonder if it wouldn't be better to get those areas completed before this goes out for the community involvement.
Are you making an amended motion?
I would like to make an amended motion that once the policy is completed and approved by the board, then it would go out for the community involvement and their 21-day period.
But this says a draft. The motion was made that it's a draft.
I guess I would like to know what specifically is there that still needs to be done that
Well,
would delay it.
There is a purpose for sending a draft document to the community for their review, is so that they can provide us comments back that be considered. Anybody on this board or anybody about to be on this board has the same opportunity. So I have a motion. Do I have a second to amend the original motion? Not hearing a second, then we will consider the original motion, which is to send this draft document to the community to allow them to review it and to provide comments back to the board. Obviously, this is going to go across two boards, this board to the next board. What I want to say about this motion is this. This committee was formed in January for this express purpose. Somebody in this community had to provide expert advice to the board. What we found out last year when residents stood up and professed expertise in these areas is that they were wrong. And so it was through research and it was through a lot of effort that people that are now sitting on this committee brought forward to the board to allow us to make the decisions that were made a year ago, or a little more than a year ago, to allow the level 4 and 5 maintenance program to go forward. First, I want to commend the committee and your leadership. You did all the things that the board asked you to do. We set out to clean up areas, and we had no idea what we were getting into. We had no idea what a forestry policy should look like. We had to go research it. We had to find out what tree management really was. And all these other discussions about invasive species, congratulations, we only have 7 of
Well,
them.
we have 2 native ones as well, so that are,
Well, we got a bunch.
yeah.
And what we're finding out, we're on a journey. Nobody has all the answers. We don't have them today, and we're not going to have them a year from now, because what we're learning is every time we take a step forward, we have to take a step back and reorient ourselves in some different areas. So this is an area that's going to require community patience as the expert advisors, those people that go work diligently to bring us expert advice, and the board work together to try to put the best policies in place to manage our common areas. Those common areas are corporate property. And with that comes obligations on the corporation, and then there are also limitations. And so, having said all of that, I've got a motion, and I've got a second to that motion to send this draft policy to the community for their review and comment for 21 days, to collect it and send it back to the board. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? One person's opposed. That's Larry. That's the vote. The policy will go to the community. The community will have their opportunity to provide us with their thoughts that will be considered by the next board.
Done.
I want to say thank you very much for your leadership and for tackling this very difficult challenge. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Next order of business is the ALC guidelines update. Mr. Bruce Shapey, our co-chair, is going to provide that update.
A little bit taller than Eileen.
Yeah, go ahead. Next slide, please. So we had a major update to our guidelines last summer. And what we're just trying to do is we are constantly going over new items as we are discussing variances and requests from the committee and from the community, rather. And so all we're doing here is sort of taking on a handful of small changes to the guidelines. Wanted to just get this done at the end of the year, and probably we'll do another one at the end of 2025. But this is, excuse me, this is just for at this point. So what we've got here, these are some of the highlights. Communication cables, you know, like the orange cables that are laying on the ground, are supposed to be buried. Garage doors with wood panel appearance, you see them in the preserve. We are now going to allow them throughout HOA2. The December lights, you can start putting them up in 1st of November. This is identical to HOA1. We kind of modeled our wording after that. And then the last one has to do with lighting. We had one set of lights that we were allowing up to 1,500 lumens, and we wanted to drop that down to 600 or 800, which is about 60 watts in the old incandescent world. Next slide. Spas. Back in the early days, spas were, you know, pretty ugly items, and there was intent to put walls around the spas to make them look more attractive. They've improved greatly. They're a lot quieter. And so we no longer really need to shield or screen spas, so we're removing that. Tree removal. We're seeing more and more, you know, trees being removed and replaced, and we just want people to be sure to take out the stumps as well. You know, it can be chemical, it can be grinding, you can pull them out, you can cut them down and cover them up. There's a lot of ways to get rid of stumps. We wanted to just clarify the height of a fence is equal to the height of any of our walls around here, which is limited to 60 inches. And then finally, as we did the big change earlier this year, we inadvertently dropped off the section about penalties for people that didn't complete their landscaping in 90 days when they for new homes. And we just took that old text and we wanted to bring it back in. So the next slide. So what we've got is we've got this document. It shows in red what the items are. There will also be a companion document that will just sort of walk you through and say these are the things we're changing. We intend to put it out for 21 resident day review starting December 30th. And so once we get those changes worked out, we'll put it forward to the board again, hopefully at the January 25 meeting. That's it.
I'm not sure when the I'm not sure.
He'll turn you on.
It's on. Thank you. I'm not sure. When is the January board meeting?
25th.
25th. Okay. Thank you. Never mind.
So we will have time from the 20th to the 25th if there are any modifications required.
Bruce, would you ask Ms. Shawn if she would like to make a motion for the board?
I'll ask Sean. Sean, would you make a motion?
Oh, I'd be delighted. Absolutely. I move that the approved proposed ALC guidelines mini update be posted for resident review from December 30th through January 20th, December 30th, 2024, January 20th, 2025. The summary of changes be put on the SBHOA2 website, and then the final edition will be presented to the board in January. I make a motion that all that be put forth.
Could I make a recommendation?
Sure.
We want to approve the posting of the 21-day review. The other stuff, keep it out.
Okay. Remember, I'm on drugs. That's all I can tell you.
Duly noted. Do I have a second?
I will second whatever Sean said, which I think is correct, that we're allowing this to go out for comment, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you making this as efficient as we normally do. I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussion at the board about submitting the ALC update to the community for a 21-day review?
Bruce, I just got one question. I didn't really understand. Communication cables intended for burial must be buried. What in God's earth does that mean?
So if you walk around the community, drive around the community, you will see some houses that have cables that are lying on the ground. For whatever reason, they were never completely buried by the utility company, whether it be Comcast or, I forget the original, Orbitel. And they are supposed to be buried. Now, the homeowner, in many cases, shouldn't be touching those cables. What they would need to do is then call their utility and have them properly buried. We're just looking for a nice, clean look to everyone's home. That's one of the goals of the ALC.
Okay, I get it. I think that was really a kind of a Comcast thing when they were installing a lot of new residents. They just laid it on the ground. So that's what you're
Well,
suggesting,
it's certainly
right?
part of their process. They'll lay it on the ground and then come back a few days later and bury it. But in some cases, that doesn't happen. Okay. That's all.
Thank you for that excellent explanation. Any other comments from the board? Any comments from, yes? Give him a second, it'll come on.
Hi, Rick. Oh, there we are. Janine Grippo, Unit 49, Lot 109. Just more of a question. When you talk about this, the height of the walls, are you grandfathering anybody that's already exceeded that amount, or are you expecting them to take some of that wall down?
Okay, these are for permits going forward. We are clarifying people, what they should be looking for when they're preparing a permit and when they're putting in new walls. We have no intent to go around with a tape measure.
Thank you.
Does that mean your walls are too tall?
It was actually two of my neighbors who raised them higher because of dogs that could jump the wall, big dogs, I guess. And the other because they're way down behind me and I could look right into their living or their living space.
I know what that looks like. Any other questions from our residents? Bruce, thank you very much.
I confused you so much.
Yeah, we got, okay. We have a motion and a second for the ALC update to be sent to the community for a 21-day comment period. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous, Kim. We've gotten to the end of our business for the day, but I want to share a couple of comments with you as your outgoing president. First, I want to express some gratitude, first to my fellow board members for their service to this community over the past year. It's been a year of eventful activity, and I pushed them hard, and they've worked hard for the members of this community, and I want to acknowledge that work. This morning, this board met with all of our committee chairs. We had a nice breakfast this morning and had the opportunity to thank them for what they do. I want to do it here publicly today. Our committee chairs, as I told them this morning, we had assembled the leadership mechanism, the leadership of our governance mechanism here in our corporation. And those men and women spent a lot of time leading their committees, as you heard today with Common Area Maintenance and the ALC, is to serve the best interest of you and I as members of this corporation and residents in this community. So I thank all of those chairmen. As a matter of fact, if you're a chairperson in the room today, stand up. Stand up. And if you would, go back and extend our community appreciation to all of your committee members. I want to thank our staff. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Walter Yazzie and Ray Kuhn and what they accomplished this year. In April, the board advised Walter that we would be searching for a new chief operating officer. For the next 7 months, he sat at his desk faithfully serving this community. And as Dan Liniger pointed out to Ray Kuhn this morning, he was the glue that took us from Walter Yazzie to Darren Shaw. And Dan described it as a flawless transition. Ray, we thank you for the role that you played to make that possible. I'm very grateful for the fact that Darren Shaw is sitting at this table with us today. A man with extensive experience and expertise in leading and managing the day-to-day activity of an HOA of our size and complexity. We're blessed to have Darren, and I can tell you he's been a very busy man for the last 2.5 weeks. Much like Bill did earlier, I want to extend our appreciation, the board's appreciation, to all of our employees who wake up every day to make that mission statement we put up on the wall a reality. And I have to share this with you. This past Friday, we had our employee appreciation luncheon. You, the members of our corporation, provided more than $81,000 that went into the pocket of 234 of our employees. For that, we want to extend our appreciation to you all for making that happen. You certainly have impacted the lives of our employees with this gift on Friday. It's the 20th anniversary of that event in our community. Roger, you here? Roger Sweat initiated this gift from God for our employees 20 years ago. And except for his 10 years of serving on the board of directors, he's been the leader of that committee for those last 20 years. He's one of my heroes. He's one of the giants of our community, and I want to extend my appreciation to Mr. Sweat. So what's the status of our corporation? I believe the future is very bright. On the governance side, a couple years ago when I got on the board, I was pretty brutal about assessing the status of the governance mechanism within our community. Today we have a strategic plan in place that is utilized and employed by the staff, the board, and our committees. We're going to be wrapping up the facility master plan, which will serve as the foundation for the long-range planning and thinking about how we maintain the facilities we enjoy in this community. Our financial planning has gone to new heights. We've got a 2025 budget in place, approved with a 2.9% increase in POA. We've got a 5-year budget plan that takes us through 2029, and as Mark wrote in his letter to you, takes care of $28 million of reserve funding requirements for those next 5 years. And we have a 10-year financial forecast in place. The future is bright. Noted achievements. If you looked at the financial report that Terry gave us, I might as well More than $5 million is invested in the reserve fund. More than $2 million is invested in the operating fund. He reported to you that we're enjoying more investment income than we've experienced in the past. The future is bright. Some noted achievements that occurred this past year: the permanent home for the Mountain View Golf Shop, a renovation that occurred earlier this year. Denise Lexell played a great role working with Ray Kuhn and the operations team on a shoestring budget to bring our golf shops into the 21st century. The Rincon Room is now serving more residents for fitness purposes. And as Terry pointed out to you, class participation is up, revenues are up, subsidies are down. You, the residents of this community, paid off the Mountain View Golf Course renovation loan. It's gone. And that money that was locked up securing that loan is now part of the $5 million that's invested in our reserve fund. I could go on and on about the earlier this year. We brought in consultants. We brought in Real Foods to take a look at our food and beverage operation. If you take out the $125,000 anvil we hung around food and beverage neck this year with our incentive program, our dining rewards program, we're going to see subsidies. Terry mentioned some 32%. I make it 38%. I want you to think about that. The subsidy in food and beverage being reduced by more than a third this year. The future is bright. I could talk about Troon and what's going on with our golf courses. A few weeks ago, one of our members walked up to me and said, "Matt, I can't tell you if Troon is really doing a good job. It just looks like they're doing a good job from everything that I see on our golf courses. Troon is doing a good job, and here's the evidence." For those people that wanted to encourage me for the future about thoughts about, we'll just see about the Mountain View performance after we get the golf course opened. Over the last 5 months compared with 2022, our rounds are now at the same pace as they were at 22. The difference is a couple $100,000 more in revenue. Thank you, Troon, for dynamic pricing models related to outside play. Fitness, I already mentioned the classes are up, revenue is up. Financial performance. I stood in front of you back in August and I told you we were going to have a very tough year from an operations budget perspective. I told you we were going to have a $500,000 deficit. Darren reported that we're going to have some $150,000 operating surplus. That didn't happen without an awful lot of good work by our leadership team and the staff. The success of the Common Area program can't be debated. At least 50% of the area of our common area that hasn't been touched in more than 20 years was maintained this year. Not everybody loves it. But at the end of the day, the work was necessary and it's in the best interest of all of us as a community. And if you don't believe me, talk to one of your residents who's had their homeowner's insurance canceled or been unable to get it renewed because of the perceived fire threat that we have within the insurance community. This is good work for our community. I want to extend my appreciation, Bill, to the operations team. The partnership that you made with Michael in updating the Mountain View pool that serves hundreds, if not thousands, of residents here is simply outstanding. And all the work that you're doing to find cost efficiencies and to eliminate health issues related to our pools, we're all grateful. Thank you for your leadership. Finally, I need to express the community's appreciation to 3 outgoing board members. Dan Liniger, our Vice President, Mark Eckert, our Treasurer, and Denise Lexell, one of our directors. Would you join me in thanking them for all the hours of service they've given this community? Finally, our upcoming events. Darren's already told you. We're going to get blued by lawyers and insurance and Darren on the 7th of January, and we're going to have an organization meeting, and the new officers of the corporation will be elected. And the board meeting's on January 28th. January 28th. At least that's what I have on my paper. And with that, I will adjourn the business meeting and open it up for homeowner questions or comments. Here, you can use this one.
Thank you. Battery's dead on that one, Rick. Dale Tate, Unit 35, Lot 63. And I wanted to add to that list, Matt, something we confirmed recently from statistics that come from the FBI. These are national statistics. And I want to quote the website that pulls all that together to say, violent crime rates in Saddlebrook, Arizona are considered to be the lowest compared to the rest of the United States, according to their research. Violent crime, including homicide, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, are all in the lowest category. Arson crimes in the lowest group. Property crimes, including vandalism, ranked the lowest. Burglary, lowest. Larceny, lowest. Motor vehicle theft, lowest. And those are the types of property crimes. Numbers above are the results for Saddlebrook, Arizona, among all locations in the United States. So I just want to get that out there to our public, that you can feel safe living here in Saddlebrook, and I think that that's a main concern for people potentially arriving to our community. So thank you.
So you need to write that up in an article. The entire community, even the part that doesn't watch these board meetings, needs to know that information. That was fantastic. Thank you for sharing.
Congratulations on being here still after 2.5 weeks. We're happy you haven't left. Suggestion mainly directed at you and the board to consider is a lot of communities have a year-end summary, kind of the history of the community and highlights. We have a lot of good things that go on in our community, and it's hard to find them sometimes in past history, and we have selective and short-term memory problems. And something like that is sometimes valuable, and it doesn't take a whole lot of effort because most of the department heads each board meeting have updates for projects and those things. So certainly just a cut and paste thing, you put it together for the year and you capture all those good achievements that the community has. For historical context, put the list of who was board members, who was serving on the committees and the committee chairs for that year, along with highlights of all the good projects that facilities and people do.
Thank you.
Janine Grippo, Unit 49, Lot 109. I just want to have a question. At the last board meeting, Matt, you talked about closing on that house and you didn't. I didn't know if that happened yet, or if you have a new date for that.
Yeah, that's a good one. No, we haven't closed on it, yes. Yes, we're still in the battle. HUD is still the barrier to our success. We thought we had HUD beat. Turns out we didn't, and so we're still working it. The barriers are real, and the challenges never end. Our proposed buyer is willing to continue to work with us. As a matter of fact, yesterday, I worked with the title company to extend our closing date 30 days, being the 16th was our closing date. So we're continuing to work it. Darren's now in the fight with me, and as soon as I have news to report, good or otherwise, but thank you for reminding me. I should have brought that up. Y'all tired? Listen, on behalf of all of us, have a great holiday season. Be safe. Enjoy your families.